So the Classic and Modern Motorsport Club is making a welcome appearance with the BRSCC this year, and their Intermarque series is going to be the first of their championships that we get to enjoy here today. They will hold two 15-minute races as through the day here, and the Intermarque series for the Silhouette machines, as Jake was alluding to, something really unlike any other championship in the country. The cars are real pocket rockets, and the racing that they tend to produce is pretty fast and furious, and over a 15-minute race that sort of exaggerates that effect as well. The drivers don't have a lot of time to make their moves and to get to the front of the field, so we should be in for a very entertaining race indeed. Certainly qualifying earlier on was pretty competitive, although Lewis Smith, who's on pole position for this race, got that pole position by quite a substantial margin. The number 24 car is Mercedes SLK, lapping the 1.85 mile Silverstone International Circuit with a time of 1 minute 10.7, nearly a full second quicker than Steve Burrows' Vauxhall Tigra in second place. But then from second on back, it's very, very close. Burrows did a 1 minute 11.6, half a tenth quicker than Daniel Smith Daniel Smith third in another Mercedes, and then another Tigra of Eric Bolton was just a few hundredths behind him. And then also in 1 minute 11.7 was Malcolm Blackman's Vauxhall Tigra. So three of them there within just over half a tenth of each other. So that promises a very close scrap in the bottom places of the podium. But certainly Lewis Smith will be looking to make good his escape from the front of the grid. Small delay to getting the race started here just because of the Mazda MX-5 supercars that needed to be cleared away from the various bits of the track. They are just leaving the pit lane now though, and about to head out onto the circuit. So this outlap from the pit lane counts as their green flag lap, and as you can see, the RunYourFleet.com safety car is leading them around. These cars have a rolling start at the start of their races, so we'll quick turn out here for the race start. The first glimpse of the silhouettes. They're all pretty much identical underneath, but of course the body kits that they have on them basically make any car you want. So we've got lots of Mercedes and Vauxhall Tigras, but we've also got the VW Corrado shaped car, Mick Robertson, the Mitsubishi Colt, and Philip Young's Audi, and Ford Fiesta, and even the BMW Z4 you can see there at the back of the grid in the shape of Simon Hutt. Right, let's quickly rattle through the grid then, because it is a rolling start, like I said. Lewis Smith and Steve Burrows on the front row of the grid, and then row number 2 we'll see Daniel Smith in his Mercedes and Eric Bolton in a Tigra. So 2 Mercedes and 2 Vauxhalls in the top 4 positions on the grid. Row number 3 is Malcolm Blackman's Vauxhall Tigra alongside Colin Smith's similar car, and then on the 4th row we have Mick Robertson in a VW Corrado and the Mitsubishi Colt of Philip Young. Volker Tim's Audi TT is next. He shares the 5th row with Daniel Hunt's Ford Fiesta. Then it's Nigel Beardsmore in a Mercedes SLK, John Price in Vauxhall Tigra, and Simon Hutt's BMW Z4 at the back of the grid. And I say it's going to be a rolling start, but we do have actually marshals waiting on the grid, so I think this will be the same start format as we saw for the Fun Cup yesterday. So actually that outlap from the pit lane does not count as the green flag lap. They will get another green flag lap in a moment once they've all lined up, so they get lined in position. The key difference here, because it's a rolling start, is that pole position will be on the inside line. For the other races we've had this weekend with standing starts, pole position has been where Steve Burrows is lined up at the moment, the outside of row 1, but as I mentioned, they only do that because that is the, in theory, grippier line. And so, from a standing start, you want that extra traction from the rubber that's been laid down over there. A rolling start, that's not really that important. It's far more beneficial, in theory, to have the inside line for the first corner. So that's why the white Mercedes of Lewis Smith has been given that line. Now we're missing Eric Bolton by the looks of it. The Vauxhall Tigra is not there. We also possibly have a problem for Simon Hutt, I can see. No, he is now getting going. But right, I can see the Tigra now. It's to the left. If that camera panned left, there it is. The Vauxhall Tigra that we are missing. No, that's John Price. That's another Tigra. So we've lost Eric Bolton, and I don't know where he's gone, but John Price's Tigra has stopped coming out of Club Corner. I would imagine he stopped to wait for his opportunity to pull into his grid slot, and then the car won't start again, and the marshal there was signalling that it needs a tow. So that car is not going anywhere fast, and that means we're going to have a delayed start here probably. So that's a shame. I'd like to know what happened to Eric Bolton though, because he was going to be a part of that really close podium fight, and that unfortunately doesn't look like being the case now. Marshall's trying to work out how best to move the John Price car out of the way. Chatting away with him there, see if he's got any ideas. If they can bump start it, then that would be ideal, of course, but I don't think they're going to be able to. They're going to need to get a tow truck out there, it would seem. So the conversation continues then, and in the meantime, the rest of the grid waits patiently to get this first round of the championship underway. Classic and Modern Motorsport Club making more and more appearances on the BRSCC bill these days, and very welcome additions they are. Will also have their Super Saloons and TinTop series out later on today, which will have a pair of 15-minute races. Real eclectic mix of cars in those classes. Silhouette's essentially a one-make series, and all the cars run to the same set of regulations, but as we've said, different appearances to the cars from the outside. Still, this conversation... Oh, we're getting some thumbs up now. That looks a bit more positive. Less positive is the sight of a driver getting out of the car. Yeah, maybe, yes, there we go, door opens. So John Price has admitted defeat. He's not going to get the car moving. It shows how small these cars are. He dwarfs the car as he stands next to it. Oh, and the truck that we're using was right at the other end of the circuit. Of course it was. So we're going to have to wait a good minute or so before it gets down to the grid. So what's John looking at there? I think he was just trying to close the door. He is significantly taller than his car, though. These are very lightweight, low-slung cars, rear-wheel drive, all of them. Essentially the kind of car that you would often see racing on short ovals around the country, but in the Intermarque series they race on the big tracks, and that means the drivers really get to stretch the legs of these very rapid machines. Just having to wait a little bit longer to have the chance to do that. The Classic and Modern Motorsport Club, meanwhile, for those who aren't familiar with that name, well, I wouldn't be surprised because it's actually only been around since 2019, and sort of came out of the BARC Southeast section, which was waning a little bit, and so the CMMC was formed to give drivers that had been competing down there an opportunity to race elsewhere, and the Intermarque's very much part of that, and created by Richard Culverhouse, and working with the likes of Rod Birley, who we'll see out in the Super Saloons later on. But a UK club racing legend is Rod, and it's been a real success story as the CMMC. 3 classes that they run, the Super Saloons and the TinTops, which run together on a grid, formerly known as the modified saloon category, and then this Intermarque championship. They've really worked on tightening regulations and such like, and they work a lot with the drivers, regularly asking the teams and drivers what they would like to see, and they're really trying to make this a very friendly and accessible place to go motor racing. It's clearly working, because the grid we've got in particular for the Super Saloons afterwards is big, and they're clearly getting a lot of things right on Classic and Modern Motorsport Club, and great to have them at these BRSCC race events for 2022. Sadly, John Price isn't going to take much more part in this one. Let's hope that whatever the issue is, they can get it fixed for the second race later on. I'm not entirely sure what this could be. As I said, he'd stopped as everyone was forming on the grid in front, and then it just looks like it wouldn't start again, so it could be something as simple as a starter motor. Could be something a bit more sinister. Good work though from the Orange Army, as always, and for many of them it will be their first motor racing event of the season. They're getting plenty of practice for recovering cars here today. They didn't actually have a lot to do yesterday in general, pretty clean day, but today a few more drivers running into problems out on track, so the hard-working volunteer marshals getting to show us what they do best, and they've got this car out of the way as quickly and efficiently as they can. Once it's secured onto the back of the flatbed truck, they'll pull that down to the end of the start-finish straight, and then potentially pull into the pit lane the wrong way, or maybe head through I think there's an access road on the outside of Abbey that they can use to get out of the way. They may even just turn around and head into the pit lane entry. I think that's what they may be about to do. No, they're going to drive. There's not really a lot of room to get past the grid, is there? That's the problem, but I think that is what the plan is now. They're going to turn into the opening in the pit wall. There we go. The gate right in front of my commentary position, and they are able to get that car out of the way. There we go. So good work. John Price is out of the race, but at least his car is off the road, and we can now go about getting this race started. They will do a green flag lap behind the safety car, and from then the 2x2 rolling start will begin with a couple of gaps in the grid, unfortunately. John Price, an odd starter, and Eric Bolton, for reasons unknown, also doesn't look like he's taking the start. We do, though, have Lewis Smith on that pole position with Steve Burrows alongside him. The blue Mercedes of Daniel Smith will have row 2 to himself. And this 15-minute race, the 8th of the weekend, here at Silverstone, the first for the Classic and Modern Motorsport Club's Intermarque series, will get underway very shortly. Last had the chance to see these cars racing at Brands Hatch at the end of last year, well into November it was, and despite some slightly inclement weather, they really put on a good show. Perfectly dry conditions here, although it is just a bit more overcast now, isn't it, than it was earlier on this morning, and certainly more than it was yesterday. So conditions not quite as ideal, perhaps. Well, actually, this might not be a bad thing. It will cool down the track, that will give the track a bit more grip. The main thing today is that there isn't as much of a breeze. It was pretty gusty yesterday. That was causing problems for one or two drivers in the races. And these lightweight silhouettes would definitely feel the wind. Not only because they're light, but also because they generate quite a bit of downforce from those big rear wings. So any car that relies on aerodynamics is going to struggle when the wind picks up. But that's not really a problem today. So, lights on the runyourfleet.com safety car. Great to have runyourfleet.com back on board as well for another season here with the BRSCC, sponsoring the safety car throughout last season. And it was announced over the winter that they would continue that partnership into the new season. We thank them very much for their continued support of the BRSCC, which itself, of course, had a bit of a rebrand over the last month or so. New logo and new attitude to Club Motorsport. BRSCC really going places, and a big part of that is their commitment to these live stream events. We've got 10 confirmed at the moment, and then a whole host of others hopefully on the way as well. So great to see live streaming. It's rather becoming the norm these days for Club Motorsport in the UK. And the UK in general having, I think, the most accessible club racing programme out there, because there is so much of it going on, and so much of that is being shown live to the world. So yeah, fantastic to see. I mean, really every weekend throughout the season, you have to scroll through your social media pages for a couple of minutes before stumbling upon some form of live motorsport, and that's exactly the way it should be. Right then, here we go. Speaking of live motorsport, let's try and bring you some of that now. Had a lot of waiting around for this, but the first round of the 2022 Classic and Modern Motorsport Club Intermarque Series is about to get underway then, with Lewis Smith, the white Mercedes, on pole position, the blue and black Vauxhall team with number 16 of Steve Burrows alongside him, ready for the lights to go out, which happens now. Away we go. We're racing in 2022. Good start made there by Daniel Smith, the blue Mercedes, from row 2, and a slightly poorer start from Lewis Smith on pole position. He may have a problem, actually, down to 4th place already by the time they get into that first corner. So immediately the man that was nearly a second faster than everybody else in qualifying has a bit of work to do, dropping down to 4th position here at the start. Through Village they go for the first time. And actually, Lewis Smith still struggling, isn't he? He's got the silver Tigra now. I think that's Malcolm Blackman. No, sorry, it's Colin Smith, the silver one, right behind him. Lewis wide through Chapel as well. Now, these cars do run on slick tyres, and all of that waiting around on the grid after their outlap won't have helped the tyre temperatures, but there is definitely something more sinister going on for Lewis Smith. He's slow out of Chapel, and he's slow down the Hanger Straight, so the pole sitter looks like he's out of the race, and that changes everything. Now we have a real fight on our hands. This is for second place. Malcolm Blackman up the inside of Daniel Smith. Blackman started 5th. He finds himself 2nd as we come towards the end of the first lap of racing. Is he going to hang on to that into club corner? No, a bit of a lock up there from the Daniel Smith machine on the inside, but he does go back through into P2. So, out of club for the first time of Ascot. Across the start-finish line we go. Steve Burrows is your race leader. Daniel Smith is in second place. Third place, Malcolm Blackman. And the rest of them all filing in behind. Lewis Smith, I presume, is going to head for the pit lane. No, I think that's actually Lewis in the background, isn't it? Yeah. So he's finished the lap, but at a much reduced pace for some strange reason. Well, if he's got a problem, it would make more sense to pit and get it fixed, but he has chosen not to do that, so maybe he thinks it's something he can work on from inside the car. Daniel Smith here is working on Steve Burrows, though, to try and get the lead of the race away from him. As they head down the Hangar Straight for the second time, he's visibly closing that gap. It was 0.8 of a second at the start of the lap. It ain't anymore. It's probably closer to half a second now as they head towards the fastest point on the circuit before hitting the brakes through Stowe Corner. Getting away from Blackman there in third. Fourth position is Colin Smith. There, number 21, Philip Young in the Mitsubishi Colt, which really does go to show that you can use any silhouette you like in this championship as long as it fits the regulations. And that is one of the more unique cars. So too, actually, the Ford Fiesta behind of Daniel Hood. That car is pretty strong through the corners. It's sometimes down a bit in straight line speed. You can see why as well. It is absolutely enormous, that car. And it's maybe not the most aerodynamically efficient, but it's very, very good through the twisty stuff. Got a nice slipstream here, though, which will help him down the main straight. And does close in slightly on the 21 Mitsubishi of Philip Young in front of him. The lead gap comes down to 0.4 of a second then. And we'll monitor that as the laps go on. But there goes the Fiesta up the inside line, using that good handling ability that I mentioned to brake a bit later than the Mitsubishi. And get the position back coming down into Chapel Corner. Good news, everyone, my timing screen has woken up again, so thank you to the people at TSL Timing for working on that. And Steve Burrows, I can tell you, is 0.4 of a second up the road from Daniel Smith, but Smith set the fastest lap on that previous lap, 1 minute 11.2. Here comes this battle still raging on between Hood in the Fiesta and Young in the Mitsubishi. Finally, the Ford will go through. Of course, having made the move through the corners, he then was vulnerable to attack down the straight. And now I think he should have enough of a margin to relax a little bit and set off after the next car on the road, which is the VW Corrado of Mick Robertson. They go across the line. The third place driver now, Malcolm Blackman, sets the fastest lap in 10.985, which means the top three are separated by just 1 second now. Fourth position is still Colin Smith. You see him going through there in the silver Tigra. Then fifth is the Corrado of Robertson, sixth the Fiesta of Hunt, seventh there the red Mitsubishi of Young, and being caught now by another one of the Mercedes, number 59 Nigel Beardsmore, who started in 11th place. This is the fight for the race lead though, and Burrows under big pressure now. Steve Burrows almost gets a nerf in the tail there from Daniel Smith, who was so much quicker off the corner that he didn't quite time the run to the inside perfectly. Gets alongside now though, and will have the inside line for Stowe Corner. Is he going to be able to make this overtake stick? Yes, he is. Nicely done. And he slips the Mercedes through into the lead of the race. Can he get away, though? That's the next question. Certainly, Burrows will be looking to try and retaliate as quickly as he can. Down into the club they come. Mercedes keeps the two Tigras behind. Now maybe the onus is on Malcolm Blackman to make this move stick quickly before the leader escapes. That's exactly what he does then. A mistake from Burrows through the first part of club, open the door through the second part, and it is going to be Blackman that moves through into second position. So Smith leads, Blackman now second, Burrows third, another Smith in fourth. There always have been plenty of Smiths racing in this championship. Colin Smith, that is, in fourth position. Incidentally, the pole sitter Lewis Smith is still running, so he just came across the line then and did a 1 minute 11.486. That is a personal best lap, and it's every bit as quick as the race leaders. So I've no idea what was going on with Lewis Smith at the start of the race. He was in 9th position. Here he comes, look, the white Mercedes up the inside, trying to get past the Mitsubishi Colt now of Young. And does it smoke it? Oh, he's pulled off for good now, though. He's pulled off for good. Just saw in the background the Mercedes was smoking heavily into Village, and he's pulled off the road completely. Through goes Hun on Robertson for 5th position. But we have now properly lost the pole sitter Lewis Smith. That's a big shame. He was just starting to make some progress, getting that car up to the speed it needs to be at, but his race is now over. And hope that he gets that car sorted for the second race of the day later on. fastest lap for Malcolm Blackman in second place as he chases after Daniel Smith, just 0.2 of a second between those two now as we continue to focus on the 5th place battle then. With Daniel Hunt having got himself ahead of the Corrado of Robinson, and now is starting just to ease away from him ever so slightly. 5 laps in the book then. The race leaders about to head out onto the Hanger Straight though, and that really is where the action is likely to kick off very shortly, I think, with that lead gap coming down and down. They're really dropping Steve Burrows though. Burrows in 2 seconds behind Blackman actually that time. There are the leaders. Well, I thought they'd be closer than this actually. It wasn't a great first sector that one for Blackman. So they're actually pretty equidistantly spaced out as they head into Stowe Corner this time. Blackman then must have made a mistake somewhere through the first set. Oh, yellow flags, and that's why Simon Hutt has pulled off in the BMW. Now that is a dangerous position. That's right in the firing line should somebody else get it wrong into club. So we're going to see possibly the need for the safety car to come back out. That would bunch everyone up together again, but in only a 15-minute race, you don't want to be spending too much time behind the safety car. Back through they come then. That time around, the fastest car of the leaders was the 3rd place car of Burrows, 1 minute 12.0, 8/10 quicker than the leader, about 1.2 seconds quicker than Blackman in second. He did have a poor lap then. Regrouping now. Well, he was trying to. Had a big moment though going through Village. Perhaps a sign of what he did a lap ago to lose that big chunk of time. Now, does that mean that Burrows is going to be close enough to attack him down the Hanger Straight? They were only 6.5 tenths apart at the start of the lap. No, again, the gap's pretty equal as they race towards Stowe Corner for the 7th time. We're into the second half of the race now as well. 7 minutes to go in this opening round of the Classic and Modern Motorsport Club Intermarque Series. Daniel Smith leading the way. He is one of several drivers to have led this race at one point or another. In fact, Malcolm Blackman, I think the only one of this group that hasn't yet had the lead, but he wants it, doesn't he? He's closed right in at the end of the lap again. Does seem like a tale of two halves, the lap for these two, doesn't it? Smith quicker in the first sector, and then Blackman really good through this final part of the lap. It means he comes across the line only 3 car lengths behind, and that is officially 3.5 tenths of a second as they head towards Abbey Corner again. Then through here, look, he's struggling to get the front of the car turned in, missed the apex there through Abbey Corner, and that was really cost him because here now comes Burrows with another half chance to get up the inside of Village. We've seen Blackman making mistakes here already. Again, he's a bit wide over the curb there. Gets it back on the racing line, but he needs to sort this first sector out if he's going to have any chance of going after Daniel Smith through the second half of the lap. So, intriguing race this between Daniel Smith, Malcolm Blackman and Steve Burrows. Blackman still not falling into the clutches of Burrows though, is he? So maybe it's a Vauxhall Tigra thing. Maybe the Vauxhalls just don't like the first sector. But, so much quicker through Stowe Corner. There are still yellow flags out though. Well, saved by the yellow flag, Daniel Smith there, because he was definitely going to be under pressure into club from Blackman. Blackman almost ran into the back of him through Stowe, so much quicker was he mid-corner. But they couldn't do anything with it because the yellow flags prohibited him from overtaking the Mercedes into the next braking zone. He's very close though as they come across the start-finish line. Yeah, Daniel Smith moves right up towards the pit wall. There is no way Malcolm Blackman is getting through on the inside line, but this is where Blackman made a mistake a lap ago. He has another twitch, and now here comes Burrows with the run on him for second position. Just seems to struggle to follow another car through there, does Blackman. Maybe these cars really are aerodynamically sensitive. Running in the dirt here, the aerodynamic wake of the car in front seems to be affecting Blackman quite badly, and yet doesn't seem to affect Steve Burrows behind him in third. So they're all right back together again as they head onto the Hanger Straight once more. Now this is where Blackman has been strong down at Stowe Corner. As long as those yellow flags are still out at Club Corner though, that is going to keep on protecting Daniel Smith in the Mercedes. Tigra does look like maybe a slightly smaller car, doesn't it? So maybe it's a bit better through the corners, and the Mercedes may be enjoying the high-speed element of the first sector. Now, I don't see any yellow flags this time, so the race is on. Blackman to the outside of Smith, who is sideways. They're both sideways, actually, and they go 3 abreast into Club Corner. Around the outside goes Burrows. Surely that's not going to work. He has to bail out of it, but he's going to get a better exit from the corner than both of the drivers in front of him. Just about with his nose ahead at the line was Blackman, but Smith is coming back at him, and Burrows is going to go on the inside of both of them as he looks to the inside. There's no way through though. 4 minutes left on the clock, and this race is really coming alive in its second half. It looked like Daniel Smith had this in the bag midway through, but Malcolm Blackman did officially lead his first lap that time by 65 1,000ths of a second, and now he's wide at Village though, and he's going to undo all of that hard work. Burrows comes back at him, and I think will take second place away from him through Chapel Corner, so car number 16 back into P2, and that's exactly what Daniel Smith wanted to see in his mirrors, because it means he's got a good lead now as they head down towards Stowe Corner again, definitely the corner at which Smith is struggling the most. The right-hander they go. Further back there is the Ford of Daniel Hunn running in 5th position. He's catching, in fact he's caught and has overtaken the 491 car of Colin Smith, which has really faded in this race. You can see him there, the silver Vauxhall, behind now the yellow and red Ford. So Daniel Hunn, having started in a lowly 10th place, is on course for a 4th place finish here, nearly 20 seconds off the leaders, who are again battling down the pit straight. I just saw out of the window. Daniel Hunn looking good for 4th position. Right, challenge on for the lead. It's still the Mercedes that hangs on though. And now Burrows and Blackman are starting to run out of time. Just 2.5 minutes and change to go. Mercedes leading the 2 Vauxhalls, but will the dynamic of this battle change now that it's not Blackman in second but Burrows? It seems like it will, because Burrows is stronger through this first sector than Blackman has been, and that means he's staying tightly on the tail of the Mercedes. They both take very tight lines into Chapel, but it didn't really seem to slow them down too much on the exit of the corner. Interestingly there, Smith defending the inside line, but Burrows showing no intention of going with him. He stays to the outside and doesn't try and pick up the slipstream. Doesn't really matter. Maybe he doesn't want to be too close through Stowe because he knows he's going to get a good run through the corner compared to the Mercedes ahead. Having said that, actually, he didn't get a great run that time, and so the gap stays the same on corner exit as it was going in. They're going to come across the line this time to start what should be the penultimate lap of the race. We've had a few races finishing early today, but I don't think this one will, because there are not any cars in dangerous positions. That's the only one that could have been the BMW of Simon Hutt, but as you can see, it's being pushed down the pit lane now by the marshals. So hopefully this one should go the distance. So in theory, 2 more laps to go. 0.6 miles then before we decide the outcome of the opening round of the championship. It's been a brilliant race, this. Probably made more entertaining by the fact that Lewis Smith has had some mechanical dramas. I wouldn't wish that on him, of course, but it certainly gifted us a really good fight for the race victory. Daniel Smith has led most of this race in the blue number 33 Mercedes SLK. Is he going to lead when it really counts at the end of it? Down the back straight then, are they side by side behind? Yes, I think they are. Malcolm Blackman up the inside of Steve Burrows for second place. I think this is bad news for Daniel Smith, actually, because I do think that Blackman is a bit quicker than Burrows. Now that he's into P2, he's going to have just over a lap to try and chase back down the race leader, who is smoking slightly, is he not, Daniel Smith? Like a wisp of maybe tyre smoke there from the left rear corner. It could just be that he's pushing so hard that he's actually sliding that tyre slightly through the high-speed corners. Oh, Blackman giving it his absolute all. Made a little bit of a mistake there through the first part of Club Corner. Across the line they go. On to the final lap of racing then in the first race of the weekend for the Classic and Modern Motorsport Club and their Intermarque series. Now, if what we saw through the middle portion of the race stays true on the final lap, it looks as though Blackman's going to struggle to catch Smith through the first sector, but he might just have a run at him through the final few corners. Certainly so far so true, because he has dropped back a touch through the first couple of corners, but we've seen him gain huge chunks of time through Stowe Corner earlier on in the race. Not to say that he'll definitely do that on the final lap, and that's what he'll need to do if he's going to have any chance of beating Daniel Smith. I think he's too far back, isn't he? That's got to be over a second, the margin between the two of them. Daniel Smith has put together a really strong final few laps here to make the break at the head of the field, and I think even the best run in the world through Stowe Corner is not going to bring Malcolm Blackman in touch with the race leader. A car pulling into the pit lane up the road. That might be Lewis Smith back in again, possibly having No, I think it's actually Beardsmore, the silver number 59 of Nigel Beardsmore, pitting on the final lap. But no such problems for this Mercedes. It's about the only Mercedes that hasn't had problems in this race, and that is going to be enough in the end to gift the race victory to Daniel Smith. Checkered flag waves for Daniel Smith, a brilliant race win for him. Second goes to Malcolm Blackman, a fighting second place, with Steve Burrows eventually fading down to third by the flag, but a brilliant scrap there between the three of them that looked as though it was going to rage right down to the wire, but Daniel Smith in the end winning by 1.1 seconds. It's going to be Daniel Hunn in fourth position in the yellow and red Ford Fiesta. He crosses the line now. Fifth place for the silver Vauxhall Tigra of Colin Smith. And then next up should be the VW Corrado of Robertson, the Mitsubishi Colt of Young, and then this car, the Volker Tim driven Audi TT. Oh, well, there's going to be a change here. It's the Mitsubishi on the inside line, and Young is maybe going to steal the place. Oh, no, not quite. By 45 thousandths of a second, Mick Robertson hangs on to sixth position with Philip Young in sixth. That was really, really close indeed. Young had the move made halfway through Club Corner, but you just can't carry that speed on the inside line through the second apex quite like you can on the outside, and so the VW beats out the Mitsubishi. Then it is the Audi TT of Tim, and with Nigel Beardsmore heading to the pit lane on the final lap, that is going to be the final finisher. So just the 8 cars running in the end. These cars can be a bit highly strung sometimes though, mechanical problems not uncommon. No such problem for our podium finishers, of course, who put on a great show, and hopefully we'll see some of those that had troubles in this one coming out a bit stronger in race 2, in particular Lewis Smith, who I guess is now going to have to start from the back of the grid. So race results then for our first Intermarque race of the day. Daniel Smith the winner, Malcolm Blackman in second place, Steve Burrows third, Daniel Hunn in fourth, ahead of Colin Smith fifth, Mick Robertson sixth, Philip Young seventh, eighth Volker Tim, ninth for Nigel Beardsmore. He will probably still be classified because he was only 1 lap down and he was technically still running at the flag. Simon Hutt though is a non-finisher, Eric Bolton too, as well as John Price, and of course Lewis Smith, who we saw did stay out for a few laps before bailing for the pit lane with what was obviously a terminal problem. So, very entertaining first race of the day for the Intermarques. They'll be back out again a little bit later on, but for now they're heading down to the pit lane to have a chat with Jake Sanson.
Fascinating stuff from the Intermarques. They really gave us a good battle, and Dan Smith is clambering out of his beautiful Mercedes. Dan, well, that was a very well put together race, particularly those last couple of laps where you finally managed to get the gung-ho in the car and you started to pull away.
Started to towards the end. I think Steve and Malcolm were battling, luckily, so it kind of let me get away a bit, but yeah, it was something's definitely getting a bit hot in there. It was definitely a bit smoky.
Yeah, I can actually see. Let's have a look in the cockpit. You can actually see that would not have lasted another couple of laps or so, because it was getting pretty difficult out there.
It was seriously hot out there, yeah. The car, it's not too bad driving it, but the car was really on its limit around there. So, but yeah, great fun.
Fantastic, and obviously that's a great way to start the weekend. There's another great race coming up later. Do you think you can get on top of those issues?
Well, yeah, I should see what it is. I think it must be an oil somewhere, leak somewhere. So we'll see what we can find and go from there. So.
Take a nice swig of oxygen. I think you've earned it.
We'll do. Hard work. So.
Fair play. So there you go. Dan Smith was actually literally running the gauntlet there because the car was starting to cook a little bit. So he was very, very lucky that the checkered flag came out when it did. So a little bit nasty. Now, Malcolm Blackman is the man who came home in second position. I'm not entirely sure where Steve Burrows has wandered off to. I think he's already gone round the back. I didn't think he was... Oh, has he come through? He's in Parc Fermé. Right, let's see if we can find him. Rod Birley's coming over. We're going to have a word with Rod Birley a bit later when he wins his 789th race victory. Steve Burrows, so he's already gone straight through. So he's already all the way there. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get a chance to talk to him. But let's have a word with Malcolm Blackman anyway. Malcolm, long time no see. Good to see you, and a nice second place to start the day.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the car was good enough. I made a few mistakes where we haven't drove it for quite a while. So, yeah, and I don't really know the circuit very well. So, yeah, it's definitely got better as the race went on.
And life in the Modern and Classic Motorsport Club, it's looking pretty exciting these days, and what Mr. Culverhouse is coming up with, it looks pretty good for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if a few of the drivers, because they sort of split up and then they're coming back slowly, but I think this meeting was still a tad early in the season. A lot of boys are still expecting another month, so then we've never really done their cars at Christmas. they haven't got them done, and it's so hard to get parts now with COVID and the way it is. No one's got it on the shelf, so them who think they're going to ring up and order the stuff, like a friend of mine's looking for, I think there's 2 of them that's waiting for windows, and they're not here. So it's just, and you can't do nothing else.
Interesting. So now that the car, you've given it a little bit of a warm-up in that first race, the second one, can you push anything more out of it? Can you get the win?
If I don't make the mistakes, I've got a chance of winning. It's just with Dan, I picked the wrong side, then Steve blocked the hole, and it's just racing. It's not fighting one, you're fighting 2, so you're trying to defend as well as overtake. And then I thought I had him, and then I missed the gear, and it's like, and then you've got to build it all back up again. So yeah, it was good. I mean, it's good. It's quite, some of the races we've had at Brands have been quite boring. That was a really good, exciting. I should think it was good, exciting for everyone else to watch as well.
Yeah, we definitely enjoyed watching that, Malcolm. We're looking forward to the next one. Hope it's a good one for you.
Cheers, thanks very much.
Excellent. Well, that was a very hot and bothering race there for the Intermarques. You can see again. Look at the machine that Dan Smith has just been able to bail out of. Goodness me, any longer and that could have got a very, very hot seat indeed. But I tell you what, the Intermarques have got another race coming up. Hopefully they'll get on top of that, ready for race 2, and Dan will come out again and do the business for a second time. We're going to take a breather in a moment, and then we've got another action-packed afternoon of racing ahead.
Yes, we do indeed, with still a lot more races to come. 9 more races this afternoon, so we are going to take a very short break now, but make sure you're back at around about 1:30 this afternoon, because we've got so much more to come. We've got 2 races from the Mazda MX-5 Clubman Championship, from the Ford Modified Series, from the Super Saloons and TinTops from the Classic and Modern Motorsport Club, as well as a race apiece for the Mazda MX-5 Championship and the MX-5 Super Cup. So plenty of close racing action to come here at the Silverstone International Circuit, with racing due to resume at just past 1:30. So go off and grab a bite to eat. Make sure you're back for the afternoon's racing. We'll see you then.